Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Indie Alaska is an innovative weekly web series capturing the diverse and colorful lifestyle of Alaskans. Real stories of everyday Alaskans at work and play. Supported in part by Alyeska Pipeline Service Company.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. Taking a look at the first graphic here, the last day of the Alaska Flood Safety Awareness Week ran all week 14th through the 18th. And so showing this graphic for the last time here, we have the Iliamna River back in 2003, October 2003. Anyway, moving on to the satellite, we've had a couple of bands of moisture moving into the interior, weakening, dissipating fronts. One right through here, bringing some variable cloudiness moving through the central interior and some isolated to scattered showers along with it. And actually, this one down here, up along the North Gulf Coast, that's got the heavier rainfall amounts in it. Some moderate rain at times was reported around Seward this morning, and we had rain extending back along the North Gulf Coast to about Yakutat, kind of showery there into the northern southeast coast, and some winds kicking up to 15 to 30 miles an hour at times there over the northern panhandle at Juneau. And then the next big front pushing northward here began to taper the showers off. They never actually ended. They kind of just lingered there over the southern areas throughout the afternoon. But the wind's kicking up here. Heidelberg seeing gusts up to 30, 35 miles an hour this afternoon, as well as some pretty good winds blowing out of Turnagain Arm, turning southeast across portions of Anchorage this afternoon. And again, the rainfall here in areas back to the west across Bristol Bay, and then the low pressure area right in there, combined with the upper low pressure, bringing kind of a cold, rainy day to the Alaska Peninsula. Temperatures in the 30s today with rain and snow back into Unalaska. Then you back farther to the west, looks like around Nikolsky on out toward Adak and Atkey, getting into some sunshine with just some isolated showers out toward Shimia, and cloudy skies, a little bit of light snow, fog, but nothing significant there over the Pribilof Islands. Got some colder air coming down into the northern Bering Sea. Northerly winds gusting up to about 35 miles an hour at Gamble, and temperatures down in the 20s there. So any moisture up in this area falling in the form of snow, but quite light. And also a disturbance passing the eastern Arctic coast, producing some areas of marginal VFR to IFR at times, mostly on the east side there, with some areas of continuous light snow and patchy fog this afternoon. That cleared out toward Barrow and then became a little more marginal farther back to the west. But a pretty nice day here over much of the northwest part of the state, Kivalina into Kotzebue, right across the Koyukuk, Yukon valleys, and some a break here from the one band lifting northward, and we got a lot of moisture streaming northward toward Kodiak, already increasing the clouds. First the Cirrus. May already be some rain down on the south coast, but that's going to move northward, and you'll be back into it tonight, back into the rain and fog, especially along the eastern side of the island and the southern areas. And that'll probably last through much of tomorrow and then begin to taper off late. But the southeast coast, watching this next storm, should be a pretty good wind producer as it pulls northward later tonight and tomorrow, with some gale force winds associated with it. The low center still down off the chart here, but the back edge of the front just north onto the picture there. Here's today's analysis from this morning. This front bringing the rain, dissipating as it moves inland, gradually pushing north and back to the west, and then this old trough through the interior, producing those isolated showers, and then the colder air back here over the Bering Sea and the main low over the Alaska Peninsula, with rain and snow showers scattered back out to the west. And we'll see for tonight, this system down here will push northward. Gale force winds will begin to increase here along the south coast with rain spreading inland. Look for diminishing clouds there over the northern panhandle with Variable cloudiness in over Prince William Sound after the showers currently going on begin to taper off and end. Just a risk of an isolated snow shower, some variable cloudiness continuing to move through the interior along with this band up here, but pretty good up over the north and northwest part of the state, and some variable clouds along the Arctic coast. Winds basically easterly there in all areas in the 5 to 15 knot range. And a little bit of moisture with this weak front, possibly in the form of light snow here over the Yukon or the Kuskokwim Delta areas there, wrapping again back into the Pribilof, so not much change in the weather out here over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. High pressure up off the Arctic coast for tomorrow. Again, a little bit of variable clouds continue to move through, but very nice day coming up with a lot of sunshine and just the chance or risk of a isolated rain or snow shower developing here, mainly over the mountainous terrain in the interior. But basically a really nice day both Saturday and Sunday, and probably Monday as well, as upper high pressure develops over the area with the storm staying to the south here. A couple of lows now. That front moves right up, so look for 40-knot winds from the southeast to hit the south coast. Pretty brisk winds also over the southern inner channels, but drier and less windy up to the north. Not a bad day here along the North Gulf Coast, but look for those gale force winds to begin to increase on Saturday here, mostly along the North Gulf Coast. A wet day tomorrow for Kodiak Island, and windy gale force winds, especially early in the day here, out for all areas, Shelikof Strait and the whole marine zone around Kodiak. And again, lighter variable winds here for Cook Inlet, and then becoming southeast once again with the sunshine in the Susitna Valley and the pressure staying higher over Prince William Sound. That's going to kick those afternoon sea breeze type winds up again through Turnagain Arm and northern Cook Inlet. Scattered rain and snow showers. Starting out snow showers and becoming probably mostly rain showers in the afternoon here for the eastern Aleutians. Just a risk now for the Alaska Peninsula. But up in the colder air, whatever falls will be in the form of snow along with some patchy fog. High pressure there building in over the western Aleutians and even the Bering Sea ahead of the next system that will push up, bring gale force winds into the western and then central Aleutians on Sunday. By Sunday afternoon, these winds out west will probably fall under the gale force category there, but stay in the small craft advisory levels. Otherwise, we've got a very weak thermal trough here right over the west-southwest part of the state under upper high pressure. So a lot of sunshine, temperatures into the 50s or 40s and 50s on average there. And then trough coming westward probably will bring some showers into the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula in the afternoon. And that'll kind of extend that up into the Wrangell Mountains or the eastern Copper River Basin zone areas there. But otherwise, another really nice day. Sunday, mostly sunny, light winds over the interior, very mild temperatures. Wet and windy, though, over the panhandle. Kind of lighter rainfall amounts. It's hard to tell how much rain will actually make it up past the Juneau area or north of the Juneau area, say. But the chances definitely drop off considerably up the Klondike Highway over, say, from Haines on up, or, well, from Haines on up to Skagway, where they probably won't see any at all. But gusty winds again, gales along the south coast with rain heavy at times. As that first low pulls back to the west into this position, another one will develop and swing up to the north, and that's it right there off the coast Sunday afternoon. And a break here, light winds, high pressure over the Pribilofs down into the eastern Aleutians. Look for partly to maybe mostly sunny skies there, actually from False Pass over to Unalaska. And for the temperatures this afternoon, near 50 or mid 40s to near 50 over just about all of the southeast coast, to mid to upper 40s here for south central Alaska and the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. A little cooler there, Kodiak Island with the clouds and rain, especially down on the south coast. Otherwise, 52 in the Fairbanks area there, or the greater Fairbanks area in the central Tanana Valley. Near 50 elsewhere, but mid to upper 40s here across south of the mountains, and upper 40s back to the west and southwest. Farther to the north in the central interior, that's Bettles with 39 degrees. Chillier 19 up at Anatuvik Pass with a little more elevation. Otherwise, mid 40s over the inland areas here, back into the mid 20s there along the north coast of the Seward Peninsula there. Shishmaref 25, but up to 34 at Selawik, 6 at Barrow, 23 over at Kaktovik with the light snow, 13 Point Lay. Nome was up to 43 degrees today, and St. Lawrence Island generally in the mid-20s with those gusty winds, mainly over at Gamble, lighter winds at Savunga. 41 St. Michael and a 36 at Tooksuk Bay. 48 at Bethel, while King Salmon reported at 4 o'clock 44 degrees, while Cape Newnham right at the freeze point near 40 there. 40 at Cold Bay, 38 on Alaska, and a 41 with some sun around Atka. For the lows tonight, dropping into the mid-30s to near 40 over the Panhandle. Otherwise, generally reaching or dropping a little below freezing here, maybe into the upper 20s south of the Alaska Range. Lower 30s back to the west, and the central Tanana Valley, or all of the central interior here in the 20s to lower 30s. And some areas in the North Slope and even the Arctic coast dropping a little below zero. Otherwise milder, just upper 20s, lower 30s there from Nome to White Mountain and down into the Yukon Delta. Highs tomorrow back into the mid or the lower, possibly mid 50s here. If not tomorrow, then probably Sunday. We'll see a little bit more widespread area of 50 to 55 degree temperatures, say from McGrath on up into the say North Pole area, but staying chilly up along the Arctic coast and in the 30s to the south, or in the 40s to the south. Flying weather, good IFR here. Norton Sound along the coast. Could be some marginal VFR along the right along the coastline here, and of course through the Bering Strait will probably be some IFR and some lingering IFR diminishing there on the eastern Arctic coast, and then the IFR mostly here along the coast with marginal VFR inland, gradually spreading northward, but again probably staying not making it much farther north than Juneau, with VFR along the North Gulf Coast and some more IFR mostly west and southwest of Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula, the eastern Aleutians, Anatuvik, VFR. Adigan, same forecast. Lake Clark and Merrill, both VFR tomorrow. And for rainy, VFR tomorrow and Sunday, and probably Monday as well. Windy also VFR for the next several days. Isabel, Tanita, all VFR through the weekend, probably in the first of next week. Portage, VFR, always a risk of some marginal VFR showing up on that eastern entrance in this type of pattern. But Chilkoot and White, VFR, but look for an increase in the clouds late in the day. For the freezing levels at the surface here, right across southern Alaska, and then down and just east of the Panhandle with that storm system nudging some warmer air aloft inland over the southern areas, 2,000 feet to the north. Icing threats with that, local moderate rime icing possible here, otherwise light to moderate rime icing up to about 15,000 feet. Anything higher won't be significant at all there across, well, gradually spreading northward, extending back to the west of Kodiak, and some of that could spill into the Bristol Bay area, and then some real scattered stuff here over the eastern Aleutians. And for the winds aloft, here's this upper high pressure that tomorrow will be centered basically over the Yukon, and but developing here over interior Alaska. The main jet well to the south, return flow around that. Again, that's going to wrap that trough along the North Gulf Coast as an easterly wave and possibly bring some showers into the Kenai Peninsula Sunday afternoon. That'll act to kick those winds up in Prince William Sound and the North Gulf Coast as well into Cook Inlet. And for 9,000 feet tomorrow, 60 knots out of the southeast here coming into the southern Panhandle. A pretty strong easterly wind right across the Gulf of Alaska into Kodiak Island. Otherwise, northwesterlies 25 to 30 knots along the Aleutians, lighter up toward the Pribilofs, and could be a burst of 30-knot winds at this level across Norton Sound. You can see it drops right off, actually angles up across the Bering Strait. Then you're back into the light winds and high pressure over the northern interior down into even the White Mountains, pretty light and variable there. Westerlies at 20, just catching the eastern Arctic coast. Northwest or west-northwest over the Aleutians. And same pattern here at 3,000 feet, 35-knot winds, Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, dropping off as you get out toward the high pressure, toward Shimia. And otherwise, very strong winds here, 70 knots over the Queen Charlotte's, up to 50 knots there across Prince of Wales Island. Easterlies as high as 55 knots reaching Kodiak Island tomorrow, then back around to the northwest at 35 for the peninsula over to the eastern Aleutians, and a little lighter there for Adak and Atka. Up to 20 knots here through the central interior, otherwise lighter from nothing to 5 knots. Very light wind flow here up over the northern areas, even the Arctic coast. And the turbulence looks like this, possible severe with those strong winds there, maybe showing up, especially for small aircraft along in the vicinity of Prince of Wales Island. Lighter though up to the north. Kodiak Island, threat of some severe turbulence there, 5,000 to 8,000 feet or so with lighter chop up across Bristol Bay. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mary O'Connor, and I manage the Aviation Safety Program at the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health in Anchorage. I'm also the Secretary of the Board of Directors of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation. We would like to thank Alaska Public Media for allowing us to bring you Hangar Flying. We are pleased to have Harold Townsend back on our show. Harold is a pilot for an airline in Alaska. He is also a PhD candidate, studying to receive his PhD in aviation from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Welcome back, Harold.
Thanks, Mary.
On our last show, we talked about the aviation programs at Embry-Riddle. Today we'd like to talk about your specific research that you're doing. Can you tell us what type of project are you doing for your dissertation?
My dissertation, Mary, is focused on studying the effects of airline restructuring strategies when airlines emerge from bankruptcy. And it's specifically looking at about the 3-year period once an airline emerges from bankruptcy.
So you're looking at all airlines nationally or worldwide, not just in Alaska?
Correct. To scope the project, I looked just at large air carriers in the United States since 1971, which is post-deregulation, where it's more the same economic environment. And since then, while there have been many air carriers that have gone bankrupt, over 200 in fact, my problem, or one of the difficulties I had, is there's only about 25 or 26 that actually emerged.
And what happens to the ones that don't emerge? Do they get bought up or do they go bankrupt?
Well, the ones that don't emerge, most of them go in with the intention of reorganizing. They go in under Chapter 11, but unfortunately, many, it turns into a Chapter 7 or liquidation. Some emerge from bankruptcy and they continue a while, but they enjoyed the process in bankruptcy so much they return again. And some airlines that happen 2 or 3 times.
This is a very interesting topic and pretty timely with all the restructuring and bankruptcies that seem to be going on in the aviation world. How did you choose this topic?
Well, I became interested in the topic when I worked for an air carrier up here in the state that went bankrupt. And I became employed with them as a financial analyst during the restructuring stage. So I had a front row seat to see how the airline was turned around. It was very successful, and it got me wondering whether or not the strategies that were employed at this airline were common among other air carriers. And what I found so far is that there are really 4 types of main restructuring strategies, such as operational, which is revenue increasing, cost decreasing, or efficiency metrics, so any changes in that arena. Financial restructuring includes reducing debt or increasing liquidity, or the managerial restructuring would mean maybe the airline removes upper management or the CEO. And the last area of restructuring is usually, it's titled more asset or portfolio, where an air carrier might reduce the number of aircraft or fleet types, or they would maybe reduce the number of markets they serve depending on profitability.
That sounds like it could be very useful for airlines, particularly from a business perspective.
For sure. And the results, while they apply to airlines in bankruptcy, airlines don't have to wait until they reach the stage of bankruptcy, the most distressed stage. They can begin to implement most of these strategies at the earliest hint of a downturn.
I understand that your program encourages research and publishing this research, and that you've done some other work as well.
Yes, in fact, the professors at the university encourage us in each of our classes to try to submit our work. Most of the classes require papers, quite long papers, and they really encourage us to submit those for publication. And so far I have had one article published, and the title of that, it was a colleague and I, we developed a linear program to align cockpit voice recorder data with flight data recorder data. And essentially they're both separate timelines when they're recording in an aircraft. The only way to match them up is through mic clicks. So when the mic is clicked on the cockpit voice recorder, there's a little mark made, and then the same on the flight data recorder. So to line up these two separate timelines, we developed a linear program that actually meshes these and finds the smallest error for the total timeline.
Well, we can hope that you never have to use this information as a pilot, but can you tell me, has the knowledge that you've gained from your program been able to make you a better employee or a better pilot?
Well, not really. I wouldn't say, I guess, a better pilot. It sure makes for some interesting topics while we're leveled off during the flight levels. But it definitely applies, for example, while I was a financial analyst or a director of finance or a financial controller, to apply the different research methods and data analysis.
Very good. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much, Harold.
Thanks, Mary.
We look forward to having you back on the program when we can introduce you as Dr. Townsend after you finish your dissertation.
Thanks. I look forward to that.
It's been a real pleasure to hear about your studies. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you've enjoyed hangar flying. If you get the chance to join us at the Seaplane Seminar on April 26th, we would look forward to seeing you there. And we did not mention earlier that seminar will also feature some of the best cookies in the world. So if no other reason, come and have some cookies and hear about safety. If you haven't been flying all winter and you're feeling not so proficient, please consider going up with a flight instructor until you do feel comfortable. Don't miss out on an opportunity to learn. Until next time, fly safely.
Welcome back. A look for gale force winds, mostly from the east tomorrow as the main low center stays down to the south and east or east-southeast here, 30, maybe 35 knots coming into the southern inner channels, small craft advisories up to the north. And also lighter winds down possibly as low as 20 knots for the north coast. And then on Sunday, about the same up here, east or east-northeast in that area. Southeasterlies over the inside waters, 20 to 25 knots, strongest over the southern areas. Again, the next system rolling up will bring gales back in, possibly to the mostly the southern coast here, and small craft advisories from a more easterly direction farther up the coastline. For Cook Inlet tomorrow, northerlies 10 to 20 knots, and then tomorrow afternoon, probably kicking into that east wind situation or east-southeast wind that we saw today, but maybe not quite as strong. Otherwise, northeast, starting out 35 knots, gales out to begin with here around all of Kodiak Island, falling back to about 30 knots and 25 to 30 knot northeasterlies here for the North Gulf Coast. And it is Sunday that the gale force winds will come up into these zones from the east and then turning northeast on the west side. Northerlies strongest here, Kodiak Island on the east side in those zones, lightest over toward Chillicothe Strait, and then only at about 15 knots or so up into the Cook Inlet areas, but southeast back up to small craft advisory levels there with even higher gusts coming out of Turnagain Arm in the afternoon, and call it about 20 knots or so there for the Prince William Sound area. Could be some small craft advisories even up in the Sound. For Saturday, Bristol Bay, north at about 20, northwest winds, strongest here on the Pacific side of the peninsula, and 30-knot winds southwest of Kodiak Island. The outlook for Sunday for those areas really coming down, just a 10-knot breeze for Bristol Bay, all northwesterlies, 15 knots here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, and 25 knots. That's what the small craft advisories will be, Sandpoint over to Cape Saracheff. And for the Aleutians, northwesterlies or west-northwest, 25 to 30 knots here over the eastern zones, becoming more westerly and diminishing considerably out to the west. And for the Sunday outlook, again, that next front coming in, bringing the gales back into the western Aleutians late Saturday night, gradually advancing eastward, 30 to 35 knot winds, Adak and Atka. pretty light northwesterlies diminishing there for the Fox Islands, coming down to 10 to 15 knots. And then up the coastline, light variable winds here in Nunivak Island, but northeast 20 for St. Lawrence Island, north for the Bering Sea, northern Bering Sea, northwest 25 knots for the Pribilos, but those will be coming down to light and variable levels on Sunday under high pressure, otherwise northerlies or north-northeast 10 to 15 knots. Up along the Arctic coast, east winds 15 knots from the central coast all the way east, and a little bit brisker here on the west side, and then turning northerly and dropping back down again across the eastern Chukchi Sea. And then even lighter winds in store for this area on Sunday. Northeast here, 5 to 15 knots. Well, 15 knots on the west side, then drop it back to 5 knots on the central coast. Possibly coming up to 20 knots there on the east side, but generally light and no advisories or warnings out for any of these areas. And for tonight, again, gale warnings will be coming up here along the south coast late tonight, definitely tomorrow morning and into the day. Questionable how much rain will spread as far north, well, to about this position tonight, but tomorrow it will have trouble really getting into the northern southeast coast. Not so for Kodiak. Rain starting up at any time now and continuing through tonight and tomorrow. Showers back to the west and some isolated showers. Otherwise, a pretty nice evening here over the interior. And tomorrow, very nice day over much of mainland Alaska. Just have those strong winds and rain heavy at time conditions there over the southern panhandle, back to the west of Kodiak Island. Some of that spilling into Bristol Bay in the form of some areas of light rain or scattered showers, scattered rain and snow showers, gusty northwest winds for the eastern Aleutians, a little less so up to the north, but a lot of sunshine in the interior again on Sunday. Temperatures running 45 to 55 and more rain for the panhandle. Have a great evening and weekend.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.